Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us again for another episode in the Leadership for the Now show. And today I'm joined by a wonderful guest, Katarina Matson. Welcome, Katarina.
Thank you, Florin. So great to
Welcome.
be here with you.
Yes, absolutely. Great to have you. So you have a background in working for many, many years in corporations like Volvo Cars with diversity, equity, and inclusion. But recently, you had a shift in your career. And so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, Florin, yes, I'm based in Gothenburg in Sweden and was born and raised close to here. And the funny thing, or maybe it's not that funny, but for me it is. Anyway, I was brought up in a family. My father worked for Volvo Cars, so I've been with Volvo Cars since the day I was born, more or less. And growing up and studying, I said to myself that when I go into my working life, I will never work for Volvo Cars. But things happen, and you never know where you will end up in your work life. So I got a great opportunity to join a trainee program after I finished my university studies, and through the years, I found it so fascinating, developing, challenging, and met so many great people across the globe. So that made me stay for all these years. But then you come to a certain point where you find that maybe it's time to dare to do something really different and new. And I came to that stage. And since you know that my passion is really diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I really wanted to do that full time. And I also wanted to try to meet other companies and go into different industries to learn more. So that's why I decided to jump the big ship and start my own little business here in September last year.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing. And your story sounds very similar to mine because my father also worked with cars and he is a teacher. He teaches mechanic. And for
Mhm.
him, kind of the only logical path for me was to be an engineer, right? He didn't
Yeah.
want me to struggle like he struggled and said, no, you have to go to university, get the degree. So I kind of followed that path
Yeah.
until it was 5 years ago that this passion for people sparked in me, and I had a mentor which told me, Florian, you seems to be a little bit better with people than with systems, right? So so it seems that we have a very similar journeys, right? So what are you doing right now? Like, what are the kind of companies that you help right now, and with what?
Mhm. Well, first to leave a big company and be your own business, you have to be the controller, you have to be the IT support, the marketing person, and the web page hacker. So it takes some time to get everything in order. But I work with a few companies within the manufacturing or automotive industry right now because of course they want to learn what we did in Volvo Cars and what was successful and what did not maybe come out as good as we had planned for. And I have some other clients that I'm talking to. But it's also for me, to contact my network and to broaden my network and to find ways then to let people also know what my company is all about. So I'm in a very exploring phase still, you can say,
Mhm.
and I have big plans and hopes for this coming year.
Absolutely, and I'm sure you can add tremendous value to so many companies. And I can clearly see that companies in the tech industry, right? Companies,
Mm.
engineering companies, even consultancy companies, could benefit greatly from your experience, right? Because we know that engineering companies, manufacturing companies are a male-dominated industry, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I believe the biggest, and even the tech, right, the tech industry, it's still,
Yes.
male dominated. And that's where I think what I believe you have, from what I learn about you, is that you have that ability to put, you know things that are like diversity, equity, inclusion, like leadership, like these soft skills in a language that engineers can understand it, right? Because
Mm.
it's difficult. I learned the same. It's difficult to speak to engineers about these things, right? So I think that's what it's your unique ability, and I'm sure so many companies will benefit from it.
Well, yes, I think that it might be true that there are within engineering people, but I can say that quite a few people across sectors still find it quite hard to, talk about these more softer topics, the people-oriented topics. And also, if you've never thought about diversity and inclusion, what it really means, if you are a privileged cis person, you have never had to think about it. There are quite a lot of things that are new to you when you start exploring and elaborating what the DEI is really all about: diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah, that's so true. I I I often say that for someone like me, like okay, now I have um, a background. So I'm born in Romania, right? So I could be considered like an immigrant in Sweden, right? So I have some a little bit of different background, a little bit of diversity. But for someone like me, like white male in Sweden or in any Western society, we might believe that okay, why are we talking so much about diversity, equity, inclusion? Because I don't see any problem, right? Because I don't feel excluded, right? I'm not part of those groups, and so it's very easy for some of us. I would not call myself privileged, but probably we are part of some privileged groups. Uh,
Yeah.
we are blind, right, to those things. So what would you say to someone like that might not feel like, if they're a leader, they have a company or they lead a team, they work with people, and they might be still skeptical to this idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion? What would you say to them, right? um, that maybe will change their perspective.
Yeah. I think that it's important to understand the real benefits about diversity and equity and inclusion. There is this saying that to work with this area, it's not only the right thing to do, it's also the smart thing to do. Because we know that when as a leader, when you're curious and you're interested in getting to know your team members and your people want to be seen, they want to be valued, but they also need to feel that they are respected, and that they are included and respected for who they are, and that they feel that they can bring their whole self to work. If a leader can accomplish that and also utilize all the benefits which comes with having a diverse team with different perspectives, competences, backgrounds, maybe languages, and all the other things that lies within the diversity dimension. And if you can do this in a good way, then you will have a much more, motivated and engaged team. You will be able to come up with new creative ways of problem solving or solution solving. You will be more innovative. That's proven over and over again. And you will also make much more better decisions based on many more input than if you are a very homogeneous group. It's a lot fun as well, and sick leave levels will go down, and at the end you will be a much more attractive employer, because you will also be seen as a role model, leading by example for others. And this will also be shown on the bottom line of your financial results, so it's good for business. So when I talk about it in this respect, you can say that how come not more companies have seen the opportunities and the reason for working more actively with diversity and inclusion and equity. And I think that there are things, just like you mentioned yourself, that when you are in the privileged group, when you are in the norm, you don't see the inequalities, you don't recognize the unfairness. And maybe you're not aware of your own biases when it comes to who you hire or who you promote, or who you send off to the important training development.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And I think for us in this field, it's very obvious that there is if you're an employer and you don't have a solid program for diversity, equity, inclusion, and you could show to a potential talent what is your approach, what is your culture when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, you're just ruling yourself out, right? You're not even qualifying for someone to apply for a job there, right? And but yet, as you say, we have these blind spots. John Maxwell calls this the law of magnetism. He says that we don't attract who we want, we attract who we are, which means that unconsciously we attract people like us. It's easier for me to connect with a white male, right, than to connect with maybe a female from another background, not knowing maybe the religion or other things, and I don't really know what to talk about, right? So it's more comfortable for me to surround myself with people like me.
Absolutely, and that's always the case. It's much more comfortable to stay within your inner circle with the people you know. You share interests, you speak the same language, you have the same frames of references. But there are so many reports and studies that show that you will not be as productive and performing at the same level as if you have a more diverse and a team with more perspectives and more dimensions brought to the table. You are not utilizing the full talent pool that is out there waiting. And I mean, talking about also being an attractive employer, and also that working with diversity, equity, and inclusion has gone from being just, a buzzword to an important business aspect of your business strategy. Talking about, the sustainable development goals, having a sustainable work life, that is so important. And that is also what people looking for a new job are expecting companies to be aware of and to work with in a serious way. So I think that it's going to be difficult to shy away or hide away from this and not take it as seriously as it is expected to be taken. And it is as business critical as any other area of your business. I mean, talking about, since we both have a background then in Volvo Cars, you wouldn't take the same kind of engineers to develop a new car. You need different kind of professions and experts to develop a whole car with all its different attributes and parts. So the same goes with us as people.
Absolutely. And it's even more important when Volvo Cars, it's a global company, right? If you're a little company and maybe working for a very specific sector, you might still, survive without a diversity, equity, and inclusion program. But if you have clients, like even if you serve people from different parts of Sweden or outside Sweden, then already you need different perspectives, right? To be able to serve people that might not be present on your teams, right? How do we have the customer perspective if we don't have a diverse team? So we talk a little bit about the leaders that maybe still believe that this is a nice to have thing. So if you would sit with a leader, with someone that it's open to the idea and it will take this seriously, what would be the first three things that you would advise them to do? Like if hands-on, something that people can take and apply in their businesses?
I think that first of all, you need to have the current view. What is it like in our company today? If you don't have that picture already, so you need to do that analysis to start with. What does it look like? And start counting a little bit the numbers, what you can count, what you see, what you know about your talent pool and the age distribution and gender balance and those things that are obvious. But then, of course, there's so much inside of us that is not known. So a leader has also to be curious, and to learn about their people, to really know what type of personalities and what strengths every individual has. So I think to start with the analysis, what do we have today? What do we look like? And then, of course, you have to decide, what is our ambition? Where do we want to go with this? Do we just want to comply with the discrimination law in our country and comply with that, and then it is fine? Or do we really want to make an effort to use the full potential of having a diverse workforce and an inclusive workforce as well? So it's, of course, then about decide upon why do we do this and what do we want to achieve, and then talk about, okay, how do we get there? And I think that the thing with this is also that we are talking about emotions, we are talking about changing behaviors and attitudes and very strong beliefs and values that we all have inside ourselves. These things takes time to change or unlearn and learn new things. So you have to have a lot of patience working with this, and you have to be able to have quite a strategic and long-term view and vision of what you want to accomplish. Of course, you can do short-term activities, but this is the long-term work that will take you where you want to go. Then, of course, you also have to communicate to your employees why you want to do this, what you want to do, and how you tend to go about it. And if you are good in your communication, if you're transparent also with the current situation and say that, okay, maybe our gender balance is not at all where we want it to be, and we are not proud of that, but this is our plan how to make it better in the future. Then you will also get people who want to be on board. There's a lot of people who are just so interested in these topics and want to contribute, and they can contribute. There's a lot of people who are really interested in all these dimensions in this topic who can contribute. So try to find those people and gather them in a community, so they feel also that they can contribute and give them the tools and the possibilities to do that. And then, of course, you also have to communicate externally what you want to do and that you are serious about this. And then you have to then show your proof points. Hopefully there will come some successful proof points further on.
All right.
And I think it's also very important to talk about it a lot, starting the dialogue, listen to people, and also give your leaders and other important stakeholders the necessary development and tools that are needed. Because it doesn't solve itself, because if it was like that, you and me wouldn't be sitting here today, right?
Absolutely, we will be out of business.
Yes.
So, yeah. So if I kind of got 5, I don't know if this is your framework or we're kind of creating it right now, but I got 5 points, right? So you start with the current view. This is obvious, right? If you want to travel anywhere, you want to know where you are, and you look for that dot on the map, you are here, right? And so you want to first be very, I would say, transparent, as you said, and also honest about how the situation is. In order to improve any results, we need to know where we stand. And then be curious. I think that's a very important point, because I think this is, in today's world where leaders are, I think, busier and busier. Their lives are now running with the highest speed that they ever run. How do leaders find time to sit down and just talk to their people? Because I have found that organizations tend to use tools like, to simplify this. For example, there are companies that provide solutions for you to get feedback from your employees, which they go into an app, they fill in, how they feel today, or surveys. And what I have found is that those surveys are not really effective to take out what is not written, and some people might be just a little bit not so comfortable to write down the things that they are not happy about. So I think your point number 2 there, for leaders to also be curious. Okay, we have the numbers, we know the gender split, for example, but then what do people feel at the ground level, right? That's critical. Wow. So what would you what would you, when you sit with leaders and they tell you, okay, Katarina, but I don't have time to sit with my team or to go around, what would you say to them?
Well, then we have a really big situation, I think. If a leader doesn't feel that he or she or they have time to sit with their people in their team and know who they are and what makes them tick and wants to go to work every morning, then there's a bigger problem than just the diversity and inclusion. Then we have a leadership issue, because that is what leadership is all about, right?
Yeah,
To lead your
absolutely.
team and to know what they need to be the best team and to make them collaborate and to make them feel valued and that they bring something to the table that is needed.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're
And
right.
then maybe as a leader, you have to start with yourself and do some kind of self-reflection and some self insights. Where am I in this? Are there areas in this where I feel still very uncomfortable, and maybe then I need some help and support in being more aware of that before I can bring it forward, because that is of course, like we said before, the case in many areas, especially if you are, like you say, a white middle-aged man who has sailed through life quite easily and gotten the position you have wanted and had a very good life, and now you hear that the women are taking over all the good positions. Of course that can be scary and frightening, so then we have to discuss that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we won't get any further.
No, you're absolutely right. And also, I think what you said was very important there, to find the people that are interested in driving these initiatives on diversity, equity, and inclusion, right?
Mm,
And I mean, I also have some experience in, not like you, in the diversity, equity, and inclusion, but we have a framework that we use when we look at cultural change. Because when we look at diversity, equity, and inclusion, implementing any of these programs, uh, it's actually changing the culture of the organization, right? There is a culture in place. We tend to employ people, to motivate people in a certain way, and now
mhm.
we need to change that, right? So when
Yeah.
it comes to cultural change, we have found that people can fall in different categories. And so those people that will drive the change forward, we call them pioneers, right?
Mm.
So I think it's exactly what you just said. Like now, because you decided to go in that direction, you decided now that diversity, equity, and inclusion is important for your company, you want to change something. Now finding those pioneers,
Mm.
it's absolutely critical, because you cannot, as a leader, do everything yourself. It starts with you, right? But you need to start a movement within the company, right, in that direction.
Yeah, you have to talk about the why. Why are we doing this? And make sure that you have team members who would like to follow. And then you have to empower the team so that they feel that they can go and make the move together and together with the leader, of course. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. So then, communicate properly, at least internally, to know, okay, this is why we're doing it, right? And then I think that's when really we take ownership of things, when we communicate it and we state them kind of publicly, right? So that's
Mm.
why external communication, I think it's important, right? That's why it's on your list, right?
Yeah.
Because then you don't have any escape anymore, right?
No, and you touching upon accountability. Of course, there has to be a sense of responsibility, and leaders and stakeholders have to be then held accountable for bringing this forward and meeting targets or whatever ambitions you have in place. And of course, that has to be seen and known on all levels. And here, of course, the executive leadership or management team is of big importance, because we all know that you don't do what the leaders say or what they write. You do what they do. So leaders are important role models, and here, leading by example is of course another important thing to consider if you
Absolutely.
are authentic and really serious about your commitment.
Absolutely. This is so good. So then it's, measuring, right, and looking
Mm.
for proofs of improvement that we know come from these measures or these initiatives. So what would then be some opportunities, like looking now in 2022, 2023, and even ahead? What would be some opportunities that you see that are available for leaders that understand and take this seriously?
Yes, I think that very many leaders and organizations, they understand the importance of diversity and equity. But then, it's not all about the numbers and the data and the figures and the heads. It's also about how do we make it happen? How do we make people feel included? Like you said before, how do we spend enough time on this? And how do we make sure that we don't miss anyone out, especially now when we are still in this hybrid working mode? It's easy to forget the ones that you don't see every day, maybe when you consider who can I appoint for that new open position, etc. So it's important also to think twice when you look on your list. And I think it's important to really start working then with both inclusion but also belonging, because I think that is something that is you have to go away from the KPIs and the targets, and really work with this on a continuous basis. Of course, you can measure it in terms of engagement surveys, etc. But you have to have patience here as well, and see this as a longer work strategy than just quarter by quarter, because again it takes time, and it takes time for us to trust our leaders if we haven't done that before. So building that, having that psychological safety, that more and more companies also are recognizing as a very important thing to talk about as well. How do we create these environments where people feel safe to speak up and be themselves? And there, I think we also need a leadership that dares to be vulnerable, and dare to be open and honest and say, hey, team, this is an area where I'm not that competent. I don't have all the answers, and they don't have to, because you have a whole team full of experts and experience to help you solve it. But I mean, we have had a leadership that is really much more focusing on looking at the leader, micromanagement and control and command, and we have to steer away from that. And that requires a different kind of leadership style and leadership skills. So you have to feel comfortable with that as well then, and see that this is something that you dare to do in your daily leading of your team and your operations.
Wow, this is so good. I think you share something there that is significant, and I don't want us to just move on and not stop a little bit there, because this will definitely serve our audience. You said something around like inclusion and
Mhm.
belonging, right? What would be
Mhm.
the difference? Like, when I heard belonging, I said, oh, wait a minute, we're talking about inclusion here for so long, and we're not really touching on belonging. So give us a little bit of, what's the difference, and what would you see um, when maybe we make a confusion, or maybe we don't see the difference?
Mm. Well, I can do the one variant of doing it is to say that diversity is being invited to the party, inclusion is being invited to the dance floor, and belonging is dancing like no one is watching. So when you
Ooh.
have that sense of belonging, where you really feel that I'm a part of this team, I belong here for who I am. I mean, you can feel included, but I think belonging is taking it to the next level. Then you really feel that you are part of the team, you belong to the group, they care for you, they will miss you when you're not in office, they will look after you, and they will praise you when you have acknowledged, accomplished something good, etc. And they will pick you up when you are down.
Wow, that's so good. So
Mm.
diversity is being invited to the party, right?
Hmm.
Inclusion is being invited to dance on the dance floor,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And belonging is dancing as no one is watching, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Just feel free to do your
Wow.
moves.
This is so good. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. I will probably spend another hour with you just discussing about this topic. I love it, and you passionate about it, and you definitely add so much value to companies. So if someone is interested to get in touch with you, they can find you on LinkedIn, right? That's where
Yes.
you kind of hang around, right?
I do hang around on LinkedIn, both on my own profile and also on my company page, Let's Tango.
Let's
That's
tango
the
a
name of
bit,
my
right?
company. Hmm.
Yes, absolutely. The last question before we close. This is something that we ask all of our guests. Like, what does leadership for the now means to you? Like leadership today. If you define it in short sentence, a word, something that speaks to you, how would you define it?
Well, I think that we touched upon it during our conversation here, but I think it's to have, in this world that we are living in today, humility about the unknown. There's still so much out there to learn for each and one of us. And that really use your team then to create new ideas and solutions and solve problems, and to really see the benefits in your team, the expertise and the perspectives that they have, and to have fun along the way as well. That's an essential part of working, I think. And I then would also like to end with a quote that I really like.
Sure.
People will not remember what you said, and people will not remember what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
Wow.
And that's by Maya Angelou. So I think
Yes.
that is an important part to especially in this rapid change and transformation period that we all are experiencing right now.
Wow, that's a fantastic ending. Thank you so much, Katarina. Thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much, Florin, and thank you for a really good and inspiring conversation with you. And I hope it will continue.
Oh,
And like you
absolutely.
said, if you're interested to talk to me, you know where to find me on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. And we have some comments also from the show that we're going to be able to go back and answer. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for watching. And I look forward
Thank you.
to see you next week with another guest. Okay. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.